As painful as it is, DeShaun Foster must go. The athletic director, Martin Jarmond, must go. Both must be fired if UCLA is to have any hope at redeeming their program in the near future.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available everywhere. You can find it on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Welcome back, everydayers. It's a somber day in Westwood, in Pasadena, wherever you're a UCLA fan. Because unfortunately, as painful as I must say it, UCLA has to fire DeShaun Foster. If the Bruins were a real program and they really cared about college football, about putting forth that effort to becoming a real college football, respectable university, a little power, then they would make this move immediately. Now, the money to buy this guy out is not going to be a little cheaper until December 2nd. And the problem with this is that I think the guy who made the move, well, the guy who did make the move, Martin Jarmond, who let Chip Kelly walk instead of firing him almost 2 years ago and then letting him walk in early 2024. And then now DeShaun got hired. What should have happened? DeShaun should have been named interim head coach. They should have called and said, hey, DeShaun, be the interim. We'll figure it out. Instead, they gave him a buttload of money for a guy that was not going to get poached anywhere other than maybe be the running backs coach for the Raiders. He had left this program. Even DeShaun had left this program to go to greener pastures, he thought, but then was gifted the opportunity of a lifetime. And no one can fault DeShaun for taking that opportunity. To be head coach, no coordinating experience, nothing, and it's been a disaster. 5-10, losing to two Mountain West teams, almost losing to two others in Fresno State. Fresno State was not that good last year, nor was Hawaii. And then just you saw the uptick in play at the end of the 24 season. But again, what is it going to be this year that even if he does have a miraculous 5-win season this year, that would showcase UCLA has something to prove against anybody else? I don't think there's it. This sheer lack of care for UCLA football is apparent in the Rose Bowl. And with the tarps coming on since Martin's been the 80, it's been just all embarrassing with how the previous regime ended, with how UCLA decided to pivot to DeShaun Foster. And UCLA said, no, we're not having PJ Fleck. They didn't want Tony White. And now they went with DeShaun Foster, and it's been frustrating. It got worse. Now, this, yes, is certainly the talent dip because Chip Kelly stopped recruiting. Let's remember that. It was the lack of talent that Chip has left for this roster, and DeShaun has done a fine job recruiting in 2026. The problem is you need those kids to develop. You can't just have an all-freshman roster in college football on the lines anywhere. Those guys need to develop, and talent identification just has not been there in the portal. Now, missing on Caden Robinson, having Rico Flores Jr. hurt. They went after Nico, the big swing and a miss. But the talent, the circus, the drama, everything surrounding it has turned the Bruins into an embarrassment and a laughingstock. And right on cue, you have a new chancellor. Now, the interim chancellor gave the athletic director an extension. UCLA had a pretty hefty price to pay to get rid of DeShaun Foster. So the mistakes have already been made building its way for UCLA into 2025. So they're strapped. They're already paying $10 million to Cal for Calamoni. They have to pay DeShaun Foster coach of this year because a buyout's going to be more expensive the earlier in the contract and before December. Now, what may benefit UCLA is that there's a later portal, but you have to go out and make a move. You absolutely have to. And if the Bruins were a real program, they would do it immediately, heading into the bye week to give this program 2 weeks to digest what just happened and have a new identity coming out on the road against Northwestern and be a good football team. Not a good football team, but one that's respectful to the fans, that gives hope to the program, and maybe gives some interim a chance to be the guy moving forward. What's going to happen is not what I'm saying is happening right now. It will not happen because the Bruins don't have the money to go fire everybody. And from what it sounds like, I don't think that the AD is going to change anytime soon. Just got the new deal. The chancellor, Julio Frank, he can't ruffle that many feathers this early in his tenure, but it doesn't seem like he's got any qualms with the AD. Now, the question is, do they let Martin pick? Is Julio Frank going to be a little more involved in the next decision for head coach? Will there be a lot more coordinating experience with an extensive background search? Probably. Would it be even crazier if UCLA just left DeShaun? UCLA does something weird, get a couple of wins, and that convinces them to keep him so they can keep all these recruits? Because the Bruins have a top 20-ish class in the 2026 class. Now, unfortunately, all these guys are probably going to turn around and start taking visits elsewhere. That's just how it goes. They're already doing it, even if UCLA wasn't a disaster. That's just the nature of the business. NIL, money, everything. That was already probably going to be a problem for UCLA. And now, with the way this is heading, the way it's looking, has become an absolute eyesore. Looking at the Rose Bowl, what it looks like with 10 minutes left in a college football game at home against New Mexico because they're losing so badly. You, me, everybody, we have to leave early. And we hate leaving early. Well, Angelinos do love leaving early, but I don't. And I found myself taking the steps out of the Rose Bowl before the final seconds ticked off. That is embarrassment. That is against what it feels like my soul in as a sports fan to UCLA. I have to sit there until the bitter end, and I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even stomach it. And DeShaun Foster is one of the all-time great Bruins and does not deserve this. And unfortunately, that's the situation he was handed. And then he tried to make it better, but it's gotten absolutely worse. And then it got weirdly cagey with how it went from open and honest to, yes, he's taking the blame. Didn't seem like that after week one. Didn't bring that in with the fall practice and the fall camp where everything getting closed, because everything has turned into a little bit of a bleep storm, right? It's just absolutely gone the wrong direction. And sometimes you have to admit your mistakes, admit your faults. DeShaun's done it, but the Bruins have to go somewhere else. I believe. I wanted to believe as much as I could. And even I was told I was being way too optimistic. And I still believe there's so many who watch the show and listen and think that I was way too negative these last 2 weeks. But if you saw the previous 2 months, sunshine pumping, a lot of good, hopeful thoughts that UCLA could even beat Utah. Well, I'm an idiot. And then, they could beat UNLV. Well, maybe I'm another idiot. And then New Mexico. Well, New Mexico seemingly better than UNLV. And so I look like a triple idiot. But you can't have a coach that has lost to back-to-back Mountain West schools that are some of which, trying to get poached by the new look Pac-12 to rebuild that conference, the one that UCLA left to go to the Big Ten and be a premier school in athletics, namely football and men's basketball, and have looked only way worse, being embarrassed since they ended the Pac-12 years with how it ended in 23, way worse than 24, even more dismal in 2025. You can't lose to two teams who each had their own home openers against Idaho State, who is perennially one of the worst Division I college football programs for a very long time. Idaho State and Pocatello. Now, Coach Eck for New Mexico is very good at the University of Idaho. Dan Mullen has a good coaching track record in the SEC prior to even getting hired at UNLV. And clearly the Bruins were out-coached, out-toughed, out-muscled, despite the other teams having way less resources, not as much fan support, and just completely out-hearted. The Bruins were out-disciplined, out-coached in every facet of the game. And you can't just give Coach Foster another chance to turn this around. And I don't want to be – it just has to be this way. A real program would fire him and say, hey, we need a new coach to come on this bus. That's not what's going to happen at UCLA. They will give him, I think, the dignity of coaching it out and saying we made a mistake. And I think the proper way to view this has been an interim tag for DeShaun Foster for 2 years. That's not what's actually happened, but an interim transitionary period moving into the Big Ten, which is the worst case scenario. The Bruins had to go into the Big Ten, have a new coach with no experience. Not all of DeShaun's fault, but he got the opportunity, jumped on it. Every one of you watching this, listen, even myself, hey, this is an opportunity, probably a dream job. We're all going to jump at the opportunity. And DeShaun absolutely did, and did the best to turn as many things as he could, reestablish the relationships on the recruiting grounds, went after a big-name quarterback, went after a late game but big-name offensive coordinator, and everything's just fallen flat on its face. And I don't think you get a third chance. I don't think he gets to strike three. It's already happened. There's already been 3 outs. He's already been no hit, thrown a perfect game against, struck out 20 times with the way this has turned out to be. And then with the way it just seems like there's a lot of souring. It's already been that way towards the AD, and now it's just been an absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. And the Bruins have to look elsewhere. You can even look across the field and maybe say, hey, well, why not convince New Mexico's coach to come over here? Maybe Dan Mullen has his sights set on a new job. He'd be looking to leapfrog to a new job after a decent 3-0 start for UNLV. You might have played already your couple of top coaches in these last couple of years. Heck, maybe Alabama falls off the map and they fire Kalen DeBoer. UCLA's like, hey, let's take Kalen DeBoer. Obviously, there's a crazy. Varying options, varying degrees of possibilities. Who knows with how this all plays out? But there will be a search. Hopefully soon. It's not reported officially when I'm recording this or anything, but it is an absolute eyesore. The way there is no support for the fans. There's nothing for anybody in the Rose Bowl, going to the Rose Bowl. There's no excitement. They've done a lot of cool things to amp it up. But right now, the fan apathy is at its highest. UCLA program is at its lowest. And it's just unfortunate that it's a true Bruin, through and through, that is leading this team, and unfortunately it's going to the ground. The last time UCLA has had like this true of dominant players lead the program, you had Coach Rick Neuheisel, and it ended terribly. It did. Unfortunately, in the 50-0 UCLA USC beatdown before the Bruins got to go into the de facto Pac-12 championship game because of the cheating by USC. The only thing we can really root for the rest of this season is the players not to quit, for them to come together, but that's tough in this transfer portal age, and for USC to suck. And clearly, UCLA is way lower in the total poll at this moment, and we just need USC to suck. That would really add some fun to this season. And the UCLA Bruins having a good coaching search. And I just don't know where you could go. I feel bad for Akaika Malloy. I feel bad for Tino, who's had this opportunity presented to him, that I don't think they all thought this was going to go downhill this quickly, this fast, and go in the wrong direction. But you have to. I can't blame everything on DeShaun because he was handed an absolute dumpster fire. Unfortunately, the fire just spread even worse. And there are names that will be thrown out sooner rather than later. A seat that went from, it's burning hot, immediately burning hot, and it might already be toast. Sputter that bad boy, send it out, and do something like the seats. Gotta give someone else a chance. Frustrating. I hate to say it, but that's just the way it is. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. And let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. The endless queues, the hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices, no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You pull up Game Time in a couple of taps, you see the amazing deals. And when you see college football games, tickets as low as $5 to $10 in UCLA's case. You want to go to Game Time to get those very cheap tickets in some cases to go to the Rose Bowl, the iconic venue in all college football. Go check it out and go make your visit to check out the Bruins this year. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. It's going to do it for us here on Locked On UCLA. It's Zach with you guys, and man, it's a rough day to be a Bruin. It is a rough day to watch and see how this program has just fallen off this year. Now, is DeShaun deserving of more time? I just don't think with the way this team has played, it would take an absolute miracle to earn him anything more than an extra year, just to convince the recruits to come. But now the biggest thing is, how can you keep all these guys committed to UCLA to stay? Because there's a decent recruiting class coming in to address a lot of the problems UCLA has right now. I'm just not sure DeShaun is going to be that guy, or be absolutely stunning, and I think the fan base would turn including myself, if there's no direct action, no direct change in initial personnel right now, if there's no change in head coach, if there's no change at the top, something has to change. And if it's not going to happen, then that just showcases UCLA does not care, which they've proven on multiple times, multiple levels. They don't care other than, oh, let's move to the Big Ten to make some money. Let's see how long that lasts. Heads up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.